Oh, man. This script is killing me. Hi. Now, that was, of course, for demonstration purposes only. Hi, I'm Paul. This is B-Movie Dreamer. This is episode number 5. It has been a few weeks, and as I was pretending to do there, yes, I have been literally bogged down trying to write the script. In a couple episodes before, I explained to you how I go about writing my script. I believe there were 7 elements, and but you still have to write the script, and it's great to say all these things, but you have to kind of buckle down and do that. And so far, other than telling you about that, my videos have been more about the things that I've done, because I kind of put the script aside a little bit and started to do some blue screen, which I showed you some things with, and some other effects and miniatures and things like that. So what I wanted to explain to you as I'm writing this script, it may not, hopefully this will interest you just as much as the other stuff, but I have other things too. So normally most scripts written in Hollywood, basically they're the story and it's what the characters say. They have the introduction of all the characters, and they usually tell you it's an interior and exterior shot, and generally there are directions within their lines that tell you like what they're going to do. It kind of helps them, it helps the director, and basically that's how they generally write the scripts. And then later on, what happens is the director and his cinematographer kind of take it over then, and they decide line by line, scene by scene, however it is that they prefer to do it. They decide how they're going to shoot it, where the angles are, where the cameras are going to be. Is it going to be close? Is it going to be back? Is it going to move around? You know, that sort of thing. So in the past, when I've had help as far as people filming the movie as I'm directing, generally the night before we shoot a scene, we would get together after I've written the script and put the interior, exterior, and also showed on the script what they'd be doing while they were saying these things, if anything. And then I would do it, you know, just like I said. And then the night before, me and my cousins would get together as they were shooting with the, you know, 2 cameras always at once. Always 2 cameras, remember that. I said that before. It helps tremendously in the editing process, so you don't have jumpy images. But so what we would discuss is, okay, how do we want to shoot this scene? So since I'm doing this for the most part on my own, I decided to write the script a little differently. I'm adding not only the story with the dialogue and the directions and things that the characters are going to do, but I'm also taking the time to say, okay, how am I going to shoot this? Where should I put the camera? How many cameras should I have on this shot? So it's a very long, slow process, because I have to make up the entire story also as I go along. And for me, basically when I write, I kind of envision it in my head, and I write down what I think I want to see and what I want to see next, and then how I jumped from one scene to the other. So that's what I've been busy doing since I saw you last. Which is a lot different from the other things that I physically had done so I could show you. So it's not really like I can show you the script in a way. As we go along, this of course is for behind the scenes, but I can't show you the entire script because, well, you know, you want to see the movie, so I don't want to give everything away. So that's where I'm at right now. And let's move along to our next issue today. Okay, in the last 2 videos I had introduced you to a robot head that I made for the story. and her name was Luna. And Luna was asking me questions. If people had questions that they texted into me, or you can leave comments in the YouTube section, whether it's a comment or questions. And I was having the robot ask me those questions, and then I would just tell you. So just tried to mix it up a little bit with that. However, Luna is in the shop right now, getting some scheduled maintenance. So we decided to do it another way. I'm an old school kind of guy. I kind of enjoy that kind of thing. So I just thought, well, what would be a little bit different than me just to talk to you? I still want to have somebody ask me these things, but since it's just me today, I thought, you know what, let's copy down some questions that people have asked, and I'll write them on slips of paper and I'll put them on envelopes, and I'm going to call this Liffy TV. Okay, so I have, I don't know if you can see that, I have some letters, and Liffy TV, letters from you, the viewer. It's kind of original, mostly stupid, but I thought, yeah, why not? Let's just do something different. So I'm going to. Looks like there's 3 of them. So I'm going to grab one and I'll open it up and see what it says, and I will talk to you about it. Okay. So let's go with the first one here. Let's see. Little pieces of paper. Okay. This one. Is a question about the depths of destruction. Let's see. This person wanted to know about how I keep props, if I keep props, just like studios keep props, and perhaps I could share some notable moments with you. Sure, I can do that. All right, let's see. Props. Well, for years and years and years, decades of filmmaking, usually it wasn't a common practice to keep props, because most of these, especially B movies, which is what we like to do here, there wasn't a lot of money. So they kind of, if they made a set, they generally broke the set down so they could turn around and make another set, paint it differently, make it completely a different set. So, and even props that they made, whether it was maybe it was a weapon that was needed, or any kind of object really, they would make it, and then they would either destroy it and move on, or just again take it apart and use it for something else. Sometimes they'd even use something that they had in a film, and you'd see it again in another film later on. They tried to disguise a little bit, but that was it. So it wasn't until much later, usually, not that things weren't kept from like years back, but it really started to happen in the late 70s. Star Wars was a perfect example. And it just so happened, though, that the creator of Star Wars, we all know it's George Lucas, he, in fact, had the room, and he decided, this would be a great thing to do. And a lot of people started to do these things afterwards. In fact, some props started to disappear from the studios after the movie. What a coincidence. And of course, now they have become very big collectibles. People really appreciate them, like to buy them, wish they could buy them. Models, especially that were used before CGI, models are, wow, they're just incredibly expensive. I could only ever hope to obtain one of them, but I doubt that that's going to happen. So let me see, what did they say here? Oh, the props. So in Depths of Destruction, and I showed you the poster of that before, again, with me, I live in a smaller house now than I used to, and in the other house I did have more room to keep some of my props, because it's a fun thing to do. You can't keep everything, you just can't. And one of the small things I kept was we had the monster's arms, and in this one case we had this arm that was really stretched out to grab something, and so I call it the long arm. And so I did keep that. And just to give an example, I'll just turn this way. Okay, so this, if you can see that, this is a piece of the long arm as opposed to the short arm. See, this goes up pretty high. Okay, now it was used so you could keep out of the frame as much as possible and make it really stretch and that kind of thing. And now I do have the head, the monster's head, and let me just put that back there. Have the monster's head. Now I don't have it behind me. When you run out of room and you need to pack some things away, but you want to keep them if you can. You can't keep everything, and you want to be impressive about it. You say, well, you know what, that head of that monster's in my archives. Okay, so we'll just say that it's in the archives right now. But that was kind of a fun thing. Let me see what the note also says. Notable moments. Let's see, notable. Oh, you know what? One more thing about the monster heads. Now, if you know what you're doing, you're talented, you can always build your own masks, monster masks, makeup, monster suits, whatever it is that you need. If you're talented, you can do that, or get a friend who can do that. If you're not, there's still hope, because if you look on the internet, eBay in particular, there are people in this world, more than you think, they have the ability to make these masks. So they make a mask and then they actually put it up for sale. And the nice thing about it is it's not copyrighted in a sense or anything. In other words, they're making this mask and giving you permission to buy the mask from them and use it however you like, for whatever you like, call it whatever you like. So that's kind of neat. So the hands that I just showed you, that was from somebody that I bought from eBay who made them originally. So it was the mask that I don't have for you. Yeah, that's kind of that's a nice thing to know, because that can really help you, and it's not as expensive as you might think. In fact, it's very reasonable. In the Depths of Destruction, now that happened to be the first one. And really I just picked a letter randomly out. I did not know that would come out first, but the Depths of Destruction, which was our first short film, 23 minutes, it was a science fiction film that took place underwater and out of water, but a lot of underwater. They were in personalized submarines that we made, miniature ships. I still have some around. Again, they're in the archives, okay? But 98% approximately of the Depths of Destruction movie was made on set. So where I lived before, I used to have a 18-foot by 30-foot garage built, and it was a studio. It was specifically built to do this, and it had a lot of room, and we could build sets. And a couple of the sets that we built for that was the inside of one of the personalized submarines, and it had, we built this platform, and it had a hatch, and you open the hatch and there was the water. So the diver would just open it up. The water wouldn't, if you know anything about science, the water didn't come, pouring in. It kind of rests there for you. So the diver can get dressed and go in, and then he's out into the water, whether it's a lake, an ocean, or whatever it is that you're doing. So we had that set built, and that was in the studio, and we filmed what we needed there. And there was a monster chase scene as well. And we did use another location, but it was inside again. It was a building that we used to pretend that it was a submarine, so that was kind of neat. And what was that other one here? Well, we talked about the miniatures. So I'll tell you what, there's one scene in the movie where we needed an explosion / implosion of a submarine, and we we tried to think of whatever we could think of to do that. We had difficulties. How in the world are we going to do this? Because we mostly do practical effects. Now, yeah, I was been working on some blue screen and I'm learning some blue screen, but even with the blue screen, I'm still using models. I'm not doing CG. I don't know how to do that stuff. But the blue screen, I'm doing the best that I can with. But mostly everything that we do, we try to figure out how to shoot it and make it work on camera. So we couldn't figure out, now how are we going to make this explosion? A bomb goes off, and how do we, it just blows up the whole sub, and how are we going to do this? And finally, after trying different things, we didn't like this, we didn't like that, finally it hit me. If you remember Alka-Seltzer. Now, surprisingly, Alka-Seltzer is still made to this day. And I remember the commercial, plop, plop, fizz, fizz, oh, what a relief it is, as the tablets were dropped into the glass of water, and it would just all fizz up and turn it all white, and then you drank it and it would help you. So I thought, you know what, that would be very interesting. Why don't I pick some of them up? And I did. And then I got a small canister that you would put film in. Before we had all this digital stuff, we had cameras this kind, and we would pull the film out of the back and it would come off the little roller. We'd put the roller in the little canister and send it off to get developed. So so I thought, well, let me get one of these empty canisters. So that's what I did. And what we did was we took a fish tank, and I got a rock and I put it at the bottom of the fish tank, and I put a string around it, and I let the string come up about 5 or 6 inches, and then I tied that around the little canister. And so what I did was I put some water in the canister, and then I quickly threw in the Alka-Seltzer and I closed the cap. And all we had to do was wait for the chemical reaction that took place, and suddenly it was enough to burst the top off of that canister, and it was this just kind of explosive shot of all this white, and it really looked great. So we shot the sub as it was sitting there. People knew that the time bomb was going off, and then we cut to this scene, and we got a really nice shot of this scene, and then we were able to on the computer we were able to put sounds, explosive type sound to it, and we were able to invert it, and we were able to have it look like bubbles were coming up. And then we took pieces above the camera, you couldn't see it, we took pieces of our model that was the submarine, and we just dropped it, and it just the pieces just sort of kind of came down, and it just, it's probably our best effect in the movie, and it was just done in a simple kind of way, but you had to think of it. It was just kind of very creative. Okay, so let's move on to let's grab another letter. Okay, so we have another letter, Lift TV. And let's see what we got here. We have, what does it say? It says, coming up with studio names. Okay, coming up with studio names. What that means is, usually, a movie comes out, you see the name of the studio, and then, of course, the rest of the credits come in. So, being an amateur and not being affiliated with any kind of studio, you make up your own name, and actually it's a lot of fun. It's tough in the way that you want to make something that people will remember, and you want to make it about you if possible. Just give yourself an identity. So since I've been making movies, my very first well, what I was going to say, let's get back to what I was going to say. I was going to say that it's just fun for me to make up fictional characters for my script, and it's also fun to come up with titles for the B film. I really enjoy that. So making up a name for our own personal little studio was just a lot of fun. And you can change it up if you want to. Now, I have actually changed it up, but I mostly changed it up because I did it with certain people. So when Doug and I first, my friend Doug, I'd mentioned him before, when him and I first started doing a lot of this stuff, this was right after our Super 8 days, and we went into the video as it was being invented. We called ourselves Flick Masters. And you know, a flick is another word in case some of you younger crowd people out there don't know. The flick is another name for a movie or a film, and we called it Flick Masters. And we had a really neat logo. It was like a camera lens with a piece of film kind of running through it, and it actually, when it came up on the screen, it actually flickered. So that was kind of neat. And then I moved on, and my cousins got into the game here, and Doug, I was busy and he had some other things to do, so we didn't want to use the same name that me and Doug had used, so we came up with Dreamers 3. Three of us, that was very clever, and Dreamers because, you know what, all of us would have loved to have done this, and we would have dreamt of possibly doing that instead of the grind of our normal jobs that we had at the time. So Dreamers 3 was kind of neat, and we had a logo for that too, and it was a styrofoam piece, and I still have it, and it's in the archives, and it said, you know, it had a cutout sort of like a shallow hole, and it looked like a big white styrofoam brick, and it would lay on its side, and I would with certain materials, I would make out the words Dreamers 3 on it, and then I would cover that up with like little things. It could be anything. I'm trying to think of what we used at the time. I think it was like glitter or something like that. But of course that's pretty messy. But anyway, I would fill it up so you'd see this brick, and then what you would do is in the camera, and people wouldn't see your hands. You would flip it right at the time you wanted to, and you put, like, we had like a thunder sound, and the glitter would fall off, and left on there was what I had glued on there, and it said Dreamers 3. So, you know, we just have some fun with that kind of thing. And then we decided not to use that anymore because at the time Steven Spielberg and two other gentlemen created a company with the three of them, and it was a new studio company, and we just thought, nah, you know what, people are going to think, oh, we copied off of them, so we didn't want to do that. So then we came up with Bogus Filmmakers. We kind of enjoyed that. So our two films that we did make is Bogus Filmmakers. That's the name of the studio. And now, like I say, as things change, as you know, currently I'm running with B Movie Dreamer. So that's kind of about making up titles. Now what I do though is, when I make up a title, I do use Google. Google's very helpful this way, and I check out. I type in the name. I just want to see if anybody else is using it, and I try to find that out, and if I find that somebody else is using that name, then of course I won't use it, because I want to be original with it. So each of those names at the time was original. So hopefully no one else is called what we are called, and that's kind of how you do that. Okay, looks like we have one more letter here. Again, letters from you, the viewers. Okay, Liffy TV. Yeah, this is mostly stupid. Okay, at least the name is. All right, this one says, I can't wait till Luna comes back. This one, oh, they're asking about the second film, Die Snapper Die, and they're asking also about props and notable moments. Let's see. Well, as far as props go, let's talk about the actual monster first. Now, the actual monster in this was an alligator snapping turtle, and If you don't know what that is, you could look that up sometime. That is real. So your average size of an alligator snapping turtle, it's usually in southern waters in the United States, and it's about 200 pounds, and it's large. You know what a snapping turtle is, perhaps? Well, an alligator snapping turtle has these ridges. It almost looks like a prehistoric animal. These giant ridges that kind of come up like this on the back, and they eat meat. So it's kind of interesting. So we thought, well, just like kind of like in Jaws, when they're going to do a shark movie, well, they just didn't do any shark movie. They said, well, let's use a great white. That's really the biggest that people are familiar with. And you know what? We know they're big, but let's make it real big, okay? So that's what we wanted to do here. We thought, okay, if the average is about 200 pounds, and the average is about maybe 2 feet by like 2 feet, you know, that kind of thing, which is pretty sizable. We decided to make our alligator snapping turtle in the movie Die Snapper Die. We made it 4 foot wide, and we made it 8 foot long, and we made it 2 feet tall as it like rose up, and its spires at the top came up. So it was large, and we had someone be under that and move it on land, and it also was able to go in the water and move throughout and down into the water. So that was a really fun project for us to make. And now, it breaks my heart. We really wanted to keep that prop. It was just an amazing prop, and my 2 cousins didn't have room, and I really didn't have room. I tried to talk my wife into it. Like we had rented a place at the time. It had cathedral ceilings, and no one really ever looked up. And I thought, well, why can't we just like hang it, you know, way up there, just to have it? You know what? She didn't go for it, so that's okay. So unfortunately, I had to throw that out. Now, just because I didn't want anybody else to take it and use it and have it show up in this other film, in case somebody liked it as much as we did, I did break it up, and it pained me to do that. However, I do have a prop from the film, and on some close-up scenes when the monster was attacking people, we made a puppet head. And so I did keep the puppet head, and you probably have been seeing that over these videos, and I'll just bring it up closer for a second here. So I don't know if you can, how good you can see that, but this is the puppet head, and you put your arm in through this, and it moves the mouth and the jaw, and we would use it to attack people. Now you see this kind of looks like a blob of stuff. Well, what you may or may not know, in the movie you see they had some kind of like nuclear acidy kind of liquid that kind of got on this thing as it grew, and it became a mutant alligator snapping turtle. But this thing is really cool, and I mean it's kind of big actually, but it was small enough to keep as opposed to the large one itself. Hopefully, let's see if we can keep that there. We'll see. I can deal with that later. Okay, but so these are the fun kind of things that you need to do, or you can do. Let's see, what does it say in here? Notable moments. So the other film we were talking about, I said the other film, where's the slip here? It says, I wrote, it was 98% shot in the studio. Well, this film was almost the opposite. It was about 80% shot on location. So each time we had a shoot, we'd have to load up vehicles, take our cast members who were being shot that day and take crew members, and we'd have to go to this location, and we'd have to walk pretty far, maybe maybe close to a half a mile, 3/4 of a mile just to get to this isolated spot. And we'd have to take coolers, so we'd have drinks. And we thought, well, you know what? It's pretty nice in the spring, in April, so we'll schedule it for then. So you have to schedule it way ahead of time because you have to figure out all these people that are going to be in it, and so you have to get the schedules to line up. And you got to remember, they're doing this for free. So all of us are doing this for free. So when you get a date, you got to kind of stick with it. So lo and behold, we planned a 12-hour shoot day, and what happened was, it just happened to be, it was in April, and it just happened to be a heat wave in April. It actually got into the 90s, and it was tough. It really was tough. And in fact, one person in the movie got kind of dehydrated and had to go home and rest and get plenty of liquids and get better. And we were going to shoot the next day, but we decided not to because that person still wasn't feeling well. But these kind of things happen. It was a nice day. At least it didn't rain. But at one point we probably kind of wish it would have rained. Let me see what else I have. Oh, let's see. Just, I guess, really one more notable thing. In the film, there's a scene, there's a showdown, and I don't want to give it away, but let's just say that the monster gets a little toasted at one point. And we're using practical effects, so we really set this this creation of ours on fire. You gotta remember, there's a guy into there, so just to give you an idea, you got to be safe. You really do. Some people just kind of throw safety to the wind, but you got to really be safe. I mean, there's a guy in there moving it, and we're going to kind of set this on fire. So you got to have to kind of know what you're doing and make it so it is a fire, because again, it's not CGI. But we had buckets hidden in brush all around the area where he was going to go on land as he was on fire. And what we did first, though, was we drenched the operator. We just drenched him with water. So then the creature was over top of him. So he was fine. He went from A to B. And by the time he got to point B, it was really starting to catch, it was really starting to come on fire even more. But it was good. Cut was yelled, and we ran, and we had these buckets again. We had these buckets of water all over, and we put the fire out. It was not a problem. It was a very exciting scene, really it was, and the operator was fine, and we knew he would be fine because we really wouldn't have done it. But you always second guess yourself. But you got to be careful with that kind of thing. So anyway, that was a lot of fun, and that's probably, there's so many moments because that film was 48 minutes long, and there's a lot of things I could say about that, but not on this video. Okay, well, I think that will be enough for this episode. For our wrap-up session here next time, let me give you an update of what's been going on. We talked about the poster last week, and the artist is working on that. He didn't really have anything he wanted to show me just yet, so I could show you, but he's getting on top of that. So that's kind of neat. I know a few things, but I don't want to give it away just yet. Also, I've been working on the blue screen with the spaceships, and they've been coming along nicely. As you know, a lot of things are happening in this world, and once things go to code green, as they say, and I'll be able to get together with some people, and they're going to, one person in particular is going to give me a hand with a lot of things that still have to be built, a lot of props still have to be built, and there's one particular special effects scene, and again, these are all practical, so it's very difficult, and it's definitely a two-person job, if not a three-person job, but we'll see, and it's an important scene in the movie. I don't want to give that away, but we're also working on that. And let's see, anything else? Oh yeah, I told you that at the time, 3 of our 4 stars that are in the film, I had casted 3 of them. Now I have 4 out of 4. And there are other people in the movie, other characters in the film, maybe at least 4 or 5 very minor roles, but I have most of those filled as well. You'll find, again, and I said this before, when you're making a movie, and if you're especially doing it for fun, first of all, you can't be too picky when you ask your friends and relatives if they'd like to be in your film. And like I said before, sometimes you might be surprised. They might do a very good job. They might do an okay job, and maybe not so okay, but you know what? You work with it, you get around it, you have fun. And I stressed this in the first video we did, and a little bit in the second, but I'll stress it one more time. Fun is really what you want to do out of this, unless of course you're trying to do it for a living and the pressure's on and the deadlines are in. And that's a great thing. I wish I could get into that, but I don't think that's going to happen. But we'll see, and I will continue to press forward in our movie. And I didn't even mention it. It's Space Spider. Okay, so again, I'm looking forward to it. I'm trying to work on it every day, and I hope to bring you episode 6 very soon. So once again, my name is Paul, and this is B Movie Dreamer, and thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.